What's up, everybody? Thanks for joining me on these analysis. We're going to be looking at MSTR, Bitcoin, a couple indicators and different charts. So we're sitting at 427.92 after hours. We closed at 426.28 on the day. We had a pretty large engulfing candle to the downside, more than likely due to ATM. We did push up and we found rejection off of this key level of resistance here. But we are still sandwiched between that level of resistance and that key golden zone that we keep speaking about to the downside, which is still a key player in the price action right now. So you can see that this golden zone is sitting at 421 roughly, and we're sandwiched between that and this level of support or resistance. So price is kind of just compressing. So we should more than likely, after this compression, whenever this ends, it should result in some kind of move to the downside, potentially an aggressive move to the downside or an aggressive move to the upside and get some kind of breakout and hopefully clear this wick and continue the move higher. MSTR has been looking pretty good. We had 3 green weeks and now 1 red one. So hopefully this flips back around and it ends up being a nice green candle and we can continue the momentum. But overall, the structure is very bullish. It's just one minor pullback. And like I said previously, when you look at the golden zone off of here, we're not even close to touching it yet. The 0.5 of the 618 is at 408. We're still holding above our 382 as well, which is sitting at 420. So we'll see if we actually come to touch the 382 or if we can start to make our move up higher at this point now. Our 20-day SMA is pushing above our 50. Starting to see some separation. Maybe we actually make contact with this where price comes down, meets that 20 moving average and potentially finds our bounce. Or like I said, maybe we can just turn around from here. There's always different possibilities that can happen. I do think if we can clear this wick at 437, it's going to open up the idea of us trying to make it to 447. Because we have a clean move here, but we still have a key level of resistance. So it's kind of in between. It could play out either way where we just end up getting rejected again, or after breaking this wick, it could actually give us a nice clean move to about 450 or so. On the 4-hour SMAs, you can see we fell underneath our 20. We've been fighting with it, and now we're back underneath it. It's going to open up the odds of us touching the 20 and potentially pushing down further. Hopefully, this turns out to be some kind of double bottom where we see that kind of action where we retest this golden zone and potentially push back up higher. On the weekly Bollinger Band, you can see we actually found rejection last week off of the top of the band. And that's probably a key reason as to why we fell down further. Kind of the same thing when you look at the daily. Maybe we also end up coming to retest this blue, which might line up with that SMA. Who knows? We'll see where it lands. We'll see if it lines up with the SMAs or one of the Fibonacci sequences. But maybe we find a bounce off of the blue and continue that move back to the red and try to continue the trend higher. Global liquidity is still looking pretty good. This is the 12-week overlay over MSTR. And the trend is still continuing higher. We did get some kind of pullback, but we've seen plenty of pullbacks along the way higher, so it's not showing any signs of actually coming down yet, but we'll see if it happens. If this continues higher, then that's going to push the narrative of Bitcoin topping in Q4, potentially Q1 of 2026, depending on how things go, depending on economic outlook, of course. But the longer this goes up, the longer and more drawn out Bitcoin's move will be, which gives it more time to run up higher to touch higher price targets. On the weekly SMA, we did find a bounce off the yellow moving average, and now we're kind of creating a mini bull flag, kind of trending sideways after a nice move up. So let's see if we can break this double top that we kind of formed here. You can kind of see that around this level. Looks like we're trying to form a double top, but let's see if we can break it and create a nice leg higher to overbought territory for MSTR on the weekly RSI. That'd be nice to see for key strength behind price to have a sustainable move to the upside, maybe make it to the midline of this channel, hopefully. But we do need to break that double top that we see here. And also that kind of lines up with this previous level of resistance and eventually make it to that 70 so we can get the green shaded area once again. On the daily RSI, we are still creating higher highs and higher lows, but we have fallen underneath this yellow moving average. So we've kind of taken a dip, which is going to increase the odds of us pushing up here, potentially finding resistance to continue the move higher. Of course, it doesn't have to play out. We can always have a V-shaped recovery back above and continue the trend, which is what I hope. As you can see, that's happened a couple times here. We fell underneath V-shaped recovery, fell underneath V-shaped recovery. So actually, this one was more of a double bottom, but you can see there were quick recoveries back above. So hopefully it's another quick move. Maybe we get a double bottom or a V-shaped recovery to continue that momentum higher and have MSTR run up a little bit further. Here on the weekly MACD, we're kind of in the same position, kind of just trending sideways. Not a lot of volume, not a lot of momentum to either direction, but we're still trending in bullish territory. On the daily, we're still bullish, but the momentum is dying down. As you can see here, you can see that trend is declining for the momentum. And you have the blue moving average curling down towards the orange. So we'll see if we end up getting that flip to push back down, and then we end up getting a red hill to the downside, which would be, bearish momentum, and that could increase the odds of us getting an increased momentum move to the downside for the bearish side. Still on the macro perspective, we have our two ideas. The more bullish scenario, which lines up with the tops of this channel, which we had in 17, 21, potentially 25. We found our bottoms in 18, 22, potentially 26. So it would look something like this for the year, and then potentially something like that for 26, and then maybe something like that slowly over the next 3 to 4 years. We climb our way back to the top. We'll see how it plays out. That's one scenario. The other scenario is this one here. This is the more bearish scenario, which is the more drawn out version of this move here. This move was much quicker than here, over here on the right side. But you can see it's top of the channel, bottom, mid, bottom. We've already hit top of the channel, bottom. We're currently touching mid. We're almost touching mid, potentially bottom. And that would probably indicate, because we don't know exactly where that's going to happen. But for instance, if it happened in December or November, and you throw in like a little wick, that could be 150K, 155, maybe 160, wick back down to the bottom of the channel and then continue higher. So it's not bearish per se. It's just not as bullish as this scenario, making it to the top of the channel, talking about touching almost 400K, 350K, something along those lines. So that's why I say it's the more bearish one, but it's still bullish, just not as bullish as the other scenario with the top of the channel. So we'll see which scenario ends up playing out. But those are the two that I see playing out, and that's kind of what I'm sticking with. I think this might be the more favorable outcome. Don't come for my head because I'm saying this, but that's just my view on it. But this one's still on the table. I don't think it's not, I'm not saying it's not going to happen, because it could still happen. But this is kind of the view that I could see more realistically, touching 150, 160 maybe. And then that being the end for this cycle, potentially. I would love to see it absolutely skyrocket to the top and have that first scenario play out. I would love to see that, because if we make it all the way to the top of this channel, we know we're going to get a big move to the downside, which opens up ideas for plenty of people where you can start thinking about shorting, put options. There's different things that you could do where you can make a significant portion of money if we're potentially going to go from 400 down to 76. I don't even know if that's going to happen, because it might not end up playing out like that, because maybe we touch the line a little bit higher and it's down to 100K or something like that. These things are very dynamic. There's no one right way. But for instance, if we did see something like that, I just want to see if we were to just touch the top of this channel and you fell down to 77K, that's almost an 80% drop. I don't know if we're going to drop that much because we've seen the drops get a little bit less per cycle, which I'll go over in a second. But I just want to talk about these numbers really quick. If you touch that like 90K or so, that's a 75% drop. 100K would be around a 73% drop. And then if you get like a 65% drop, you're sitting at 130. So imagine pushing all the way up there, you drop 65%. That's the bottom, potentially. I'm not saying it's going to happen. And that price is still $15,000 higher than where we're currently at today. That would be pretty insane, but it's possible if we can make it all the way up to the top of that channel. Of course, if it's the midline, then we could go further down. We could probably hit 65%, which would be, you know, anywhere from 49 to 60,000, somewhere in that ballpark. If we you know, hit like 145, 150, something around there. But these drops have dropped. The amount that they've dropped has decreased. So this one was 84, and this one was 76. So maybe we go 68, 70%, 65, 67. You know, as the adoption increases and more people are piling into Bitcoin, it's going to stabilize the price over time. So in 30, 40 years, Bitcoin probably won't even be moving the same way that it's moving today. It'll probably be less volatile and a more reliable thing that people are going to be using. But here on the daily, as you can see, we are finding that rejection currently still in our bull pennant that we were talking about. It's still looking pretty decent at the moment. A rough little drawing here. You can see still in a bull pennant. Measured move takes us to around that 128 to 130 region. We'll see if we can hold this structure or if we end up playing out with that inverse head, or that head and shoulders, not inverse, head and shoulders. The head and shoulders, left shoulder, head, right shoulder. We'll see. I think if we do lose this structure around this region from 115 to 116, like I said, I think we can touch 113. And if we lose that, then I think we're making it down to about 110. Of course, it doesn't have to play out like that. So don't make any trading decisions off of this. This is just my view and opinion on Bitcoin and the market. Don't make any decisions based off of this. It's not financial advice at all. Make sure you guys like and subscribe on these videos. It always helps, and I appreciate all your support. And here on the weekly, I mean, we look amazing. This looks amazing on the weekly. I mean, it's a minor pullback, which is normal in Bitcoin. After making it to 123, we pulled back 6%, and we're currently down 4.5%. So I mean, that's nothing in Bitcoin. So the trend is still very much intact. We had 3 green weeks in a row, then we had 1 red one. So hopefully that was just our little reset to cool price down before continuing higher. I do think we want to see a close back above this white trend line right here, close, retest, and then make our way to the top of this trend line here, which is the midline of the channel. Tether Dominance has been continuously touching this level here. Remember, the more you touch something, the more likely you are to break it. So I do think if we continue to touch it, we're going to end up falling through it, which is sitting at around 412 or something like that, 411%. And then it's going to open up the idea of us closing, retesting that same level, and potentially making it down to the 3.9. Now, I'm sure you're probably thinking, why is it that Tether Dominance is dropping, but Bitcoin isn't going up right now? And my theory and guess is that capital is rotating to altcoins opposed to Bitcoin right now. And that's why Tether Dominance is dropping, but Bitcoin isn't going up. Because Tether Dominance shows risk off to risk on and vice versa. So it's showing risk off to risk on as we drop, right? That's capital flowing out of stable coins into risk on assets. But risk on assets, that doesn't directly mean Bitcoin only. Yes, Bitcoin is included in that, but that's not the only risk on asset. So it could be flowing into Ethereum and other altcoins, which we've actually been seeing. So when you look at ETH Bitcoin, this is why I believe it's been happening, because you can see ETH Bitcoin was creating this nice little trend, and then it's just absolutely went vertical and started this new parabolic move right there. So this was the initial trend line that it was following, and then it absolutely went crazy recently. Since July 15th, it's been absolutely skyrocketing. We were even sitting at 0.2, which is crazy because we were just sitting at 0.15 for an extended period of time. So that's why I believe Tether Dominance is dropping and Bitcoin isn't going up, because typically that does happen, but it seems like capital is flowing into altcoins right now. And that's not terrible for Bitcoin. Like I said, it can bring the retail investors that don't really know or pay attention to crypto, that can bring them into the market, which is extra capital, which brings the euphoria that Bitcoin needs to hit those crazy price targets that we want to see hit. That also leads me to Bitcoin dominance. So now we've actually closed on the weekly back underneath the structure. We have done this prior, and we ended up getting a fake out move right there. This is a pretty significant drop right now, and we do see ETH Bitcoin creeping higher. We see Tether Dominance dropping. So maybe this is actually going to be a real move to the downside. We'll see, of course. It doesn't have to play out like that, like I said. But it's going to open up the idea of us retesting. If we fall underneath the structure at around 60, then we can probably see that 56 region on Bitcoin dominance. Bitcoin dominance has absolutely been dominating for a very long time, as you can see here, all the way down to December 2022. It's been absolutely ripping to the upside. So we'll see where it takes us. You can find your cycle highs on Bitcoin over here in this region at that red line. Doesn't have to play out like that, but it has happened in the past 2 times. So make sure you guys like and subscribe on these videos. That's all I have for you guys, and I'll see you guys in the next one.